Hello and welcome. You're watching QTV and you are watching the Week in Review. And not just any Week in Review, it's the last one of 2025. And so because of that, you'll be pleased to know that we have a full complement. There's myself, Ade Darami, your host, friend and colleague Mamadou Mbodj.
Yes, Ade.
Welcome, Mr. Mbodj.
Yes.
And for those who were asking me last week, the man is back, Lamindi Sonko, doing the signing. So as I said, a full complement here in the studio. And of course, we hope you will watch and stay with us to the end of the program. So what's on the menu? Well, Gambia's first national land policy. When this was announced, it raised an eyebrow or two with Mr. Mbodj. And the United States, Trump has been as good as his word. He's launched an attack in Nigeria. Also, the Alliance of Sahel States, they seem to be deepening their break away from ECOWAS, doing all sorts of things to show that they really mean business not to rejoin ECOWAS. Also, President Barrow has launched a livelihood program for those living along the Kotu stream, funded by WACA. Also, the president of the, I better read this, Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, and to use his French acronym BADEA, is here visiting the Gambia. Also, the Q Group and the government have launched Setal Sunyureo, Keep the Gambia Clean, one I'm totally mad about and pleased about. And on a more kind of downward note, tragedy at sea, yet again, we hear of another boat with Gambians, mainly Gambians, being lost at sea and people dying and then being washed ashore. Very tragic. Also, Russia-Africa Summit. It was held in Cairo, so I didn't know why they didn't call it the Africa-Russia Summit, but that's another thing. That was held, and the Gambia was there. We were represented, and so were many other countries in Africa. So those are some of the stories that we're going to have on tonight's program. So we'll start with the first one I mentioned, the Gambia launching a national land policy, and His Excellency the President was there for the launch, but I don't think he's in these clips that you're going to hear. Have a look, have a listen.
Land has historically been a major source of civil litigation and communal conflict in the Gambia, with recent data indicating that land-related cases constitute a significant portion of the country's court backlog. The new 2026-2035 National Land Policy, developed in collaboration with the World Bank and the West African Coastal Areas Program, aims to address this by replacing opaque traditional systems with advanced technology. Central to this initiative is the implementation of a land information system that will assign unique area codes to every plot of land, effectively eliminating the fraudulent double selling of properties.
The WACA project has supported the development of several key policies and laws, but the National Land Policy stands out. It stands out because this policy brings us together around a shared understanding of how land should be managed and used. It provides a clear and fair framework to prevent land-related conflict, protect rights, and ensure that land serves the collective interest of all Gambians.
I smiled at the bit about prevent land-related conflicts because I know we're going to be kind of copying a system that exists in other countries, but even in those countries they had land-related conflicts. But Mr. Mbodj, I said at the top of the program as I was introducing this that once when it was announced and it was said it was the first national one, you raised an eyebrow or two. And like you, I went delving into the history books, and there was a kind of helpful kind of preamble, first 20 pages of the policy, which gave even gave a history of the Gambia. But you went further and you dug deeper.
And yes, and to some extent, they are correct. They're technically they are correct. We've never really had a document that was just so comprehensive called National Land Policy. Jammeh's era and Jawara's, they relied on legislation and administrative practices, but really never this unified, comprehensive document. That is absolutely true. And yes, it's been long overdue, isn't it? So with this new policy, I'm hoping to harmonize here the customary and the statutory systems. bring tenure, security.
Well, that's right.
Tenure,
Leasehold,
land
leasehold,
governance,
freehold.
leasehold, freehold,
Yeah,
and all of these things
Yeah.
sort of will be sorted out, as we said in the report.
Yeah,
the land information system.
This is it.
That would be
LIS,
a massive improvement.
It would be a huge improvement, and you know, when you go back in time and you look at, you know, the kind of colonial era where you had state lands and you had other, you know, sort of traditional and communal lands, and then of course, you know, as time went on at independence and so on, you know, different bits of legislation were kind of brought in for different things, but not a kind of all-encompassing one, such as the one that is being proposed now.
Absolutely, Eddie. I mean, come on, at independence, there were so many challenges, as it were. What is the identity? Of course, the English law, common law, part of it.
That's right.
And traditional, because of the way, you know, we did
Our
business.
societies were-
There was no education, so depending on who are the witnesses and that sort of thing. We even have the Sharia in our systems.
Yeah.
So we're sort of like a mongrel, if you like, when we started.
Yeah.
So, but this is the key, though. Yes, one understands why, but again, now we've had like what, 60 years? As it were, of independence. How has it worked?
Yeah, quite.
We've seen the shortcomings, hence the necessity for this.
That's right.
So much has been going wrong with the old system, and I'm not sure whether the framers of the initial constitution meant this to be to perpetuity. I am not so sure. Maybe it was a good arrangement to get us off, as it were, and then afterwards you tweak, you change the system as it became more necessary.
Yes.
And now societies have changed so much. I think that perhaps it is time to rethink.
Yes, quite.
Maybe it is done with this policy
Yes.
to rethink the role of the alcalo in these things. If we want to bring clarity, which I think we want to do with the help of technology to this opaque system, as we call it in our report.
Well, indeed, because a couple of things. The disputes, since I came here to QTV, I regularly used to have people come with a bunch of documents and saying, you know, QTV, you have a wide audience. Can you publicize the fact that, you know, we bought some land and found out that the person had sold it to 2 other people? We've never done those stories because, frankly, we'd be doing one of them every week and people would get bored with them. And the other thing is the whole thing about the colony and the protectorate, which was exactly what we had in Sierra Leone. And in Sierra Leone, despite, you know, gaining independence in 1961, anybody can buy land in Freetown. But when you go outside Freetown to the protectorate, you know, in the provinces, unless you're from that province, you can't buy freehold up till now. And so they had a similar colony protectorate system here in the Gambia, and in Sierra Leone it is a seriously contentious matter. And I suspect, and you and I discussed it before we came on, that yes, the land policy is there on paper, 100 pages from top to bottom, but now getting the law, having to repeal certain things to tie it all up in one neat bundle as a kind of land policy act or whatever it's going to be called, that's going to be the challenge, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what you've said about Sierra Leone, I mean, let's be honest, after independence, we should have raided, as it were, all the statutes, the laws, to come up with, you know, provisions that would help, as it were, our independence more, isn't it?
Yeah, quite.
Really, but we didn't do so. And yes, land, come on, forever, land's been the problem. What was Desmond Tutu's nice little, it's almost epigrammatic, they gave us with one hand, they gave us with the Bible, with the other hand they stole the land. It's always been a question of land. So this is it, and in our report we was right, the litigation, so much of it.
In fact, I criticized her. I said the one thing you didn't was the percentage. It would have been nice to know the percentage of cases that were land related.
There's that one, and the communal violence. We've seen a few of those. So we need to bring some sanity into this area. But again, of course, with the policy, now I suppose they'll go for legislation. I think I've read somewhere that they're discussing to repeal the 1991 State Lands Act, that sort of thing. Yes, so it will take some time, but as we've always said, it's always in the policy implementation that we're not doing so well.
Right.
When you look at the reports, be it from World Bank or other agencies, they will tell you that when it comes to policy formulation, we're really very good at drafting these policies, and then having that inclusive. We are very inclusive. We bring in stakeholders. With all of that, we score very high, really, in our 60s. But when it comes to policy implementation, for one reason or another, institutional incapacity, resource constraints. There are all sorts of reasons why we're really very slow when it comes to implementation. That's where the real challenge will be.
I agree with you on that. And just in closing, for this report, I think they interviewed 5,000 people. They talk about inclusivity. That's
Absolutely.
a lot.
Oh yes,
That's a lot.
We score quite high scores there in that sort of thing.
Sure.
So the next challenge is to turn this vision into concrete, real-world change.
Sure. Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Mboj. Story number 2, very, very different. A while back, President of the USA, Donald Trump, had made statements about the threat facing Christians in Nigeria, and he threatened all sorts of things. Many people, myself included. Anyway, I won't spoil it for you. Have a look, have a listen, and this will tell you more. That was the sight and the sound of what the USA claims is one of its missiles being launched at Islamic State targets in Nigeria. The timing of the attack, Christmas Day, cannot have been a coincidence. The strike comes a few weeks after US President Trump made his widely unsupported claims about the threat to Christians in Nigeria.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers.
With his usual tone, US President Donald Trump said the Christmas Day strike were powerful and deadly, and labeled the group terrorist scum. Powerful, deadly, terrorist scum, kind of typical Trump. And then just before we came on air, I went on kind of BBC Africa, and some local politicians had gone and said, we went to the site, it landed in an empty field. So I don't know about powerful and deadly. It might have been powerful and deadly, but it didn't seem to have done much damage. But nonetheless, I said there that I was one of those who was surprised that he carried out this particular threat, that, you know, they would attack these people in Nigeria. I have to be honest, I never saw it coming. I know he's got full of bluster and bombast, but this one kind of took me by surprise, and on Christmas Day of all days.
Absolutely, the symbolism is quite clear there. But again, the Nigerian authorities were quick to point out that it was a joint operation. And they had planned it for quite some time. I think that was the phrase used.
Yes, that's it.
So that's an interesting one.
I'll pause there because what was interesting is that on the War Department of US, they put that statement, including the Nigeria one, but they then deleted that bit from the Nigerian saying it was a joint one and that it was planned together. So because I followed them on X, and so they took that down. But I think the Nigerians, Tuga, the foreign minister, was sticking to that it was a joint operation, that they weren't taken by surprise and so on. I guess in a way he probably has to say that.
That's it. Even though in situations like this, it's really difficult to determine what the truth is.
Indeed.
Especially anything involving Donald Trump. I mean, we're living in post-truth, isn't it, as they call it. So really, how do you know what's happening? In our report, we've pointed out that no statement from ECOWAS or from any other leader, nobody has said
Not even from the Gambia.
Nothing at all.
This is an ECOWAS country that has been attacked, essentially, albeit not the military forces of that country, but, you know, ballistic missiles fired into an ECOWAS country, and there was ying, as we say in Sierra Leone.
That's it. But we have to be cautious.
Yeah,
Really,
right.
because of American power, really, nobody can take it. You've seen all over the world, including even the EU. They're bending the knee.
Well, that's right. Banning people who are EU officials.
Absolutely.
He's bombing ships off the coast of Venezuela. And, I guess he's doing all this to get his peace prize.
So who are we? Really? Let's be honest with these things. The important thing is, maybe genuinely it was a joint military project, joint action, as it were, isn't it?
Because they've been really bothersome to the Nigerian government. So I guess they're grateful if somebody comes in.
And we've heard from Tinubu that he's willing to work with anybody who's willing to help, even with the French, even though the French are sort of persona non grata in Francophonie. That's it. So that sort of thing. It just depends on what's really going on. Is it genuine help, or there's something else we really, like, I certainly do not know. Maybe in the next coming days, we'll hear certain analysts on what they have to say. So the other bit would be the success. Just as you mentioned, empty area. And I've also read analysts saying that in the Sokoto state, the problem is mainly with banditry. They're not really so sure whether ISIS or the jihadist affiliated organizations have had such penetrating role there. It's just the banditry that's the main problem. How can this help that? So the success of it, that's a different point, isn't it?
And very quickly, the where the attack allegedly was launched, or where it sort of descended, is bang on the border with Niger.
Yes.
And of course, Alliance of Sahel States, we'll get onto them later. They haven't issued a statement, but it's literally on the cusp of Niger and Niger, where this attack happened.
That's it. So everybody's being cautious.
Yeah, well, this is it. And in case anybody's wondering, how can Nigeria carry out that sort of attack? Well, AFRICOM, the Africa Command, they were just recently, as in last week, in Liberia, hosting a conference, which they said 10 West African countries attended. I don't know whether Gambia was one of them, but it was about logistics and arms and logistics, and so they have a presence in West Africa which hadn't been trumpeted before, but they're around. They're not sort of far away.
And the situation is very worrying, really. Yeah. Can you imagine if the jihadists were to succeed in some of these areas? All they need is just one place to form a base, be it Mali, Niger, and the activities have increased, haven't they? Well, that's right. Especially since you've had these soldiers take over, and they thought that they could handle it, but the results on the ground are sort of proving otherwise.
Sure.
So, and this is worrying. Should they have a secure foothold somewhere, the whole of West Africa will be in trouble, because in our reports we've seen that they've come as close as with Senegal and Mali. So it's very worrisome, really.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for that. And these folks that we were just talking about, the Alliance of Sahel States, I kind of obsess over them in that I subscribe to the 3 channels, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Now, I've got a 4th channel to obsess over because, amongst other things, they've opened a new combined media channel to actually get their message out there and across to everyone. Have a look, have a listen.
Ahead of the meeting, the 3 states announced the creation of a joint military force to combat jihadist violence across the Sahel's border region. On Tuesday, the leaders also launched the Alliance of Sahel States television broadcaster to counter disinformation and promote the alliance's agenda. Bamako Summit marks another decisive step in the Sahel Alliance's drive toward regional self-determination, as Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso build parallel security, communication, and governance structures outside ECOWAS.
Mr. Mboj, what we didn't carry in the clip is that, as well as the media center, the combined force, also the ribbon that we saw being cut there was another ribbon cut at the combined bank, and they're going to keep on using the currencies that everyone else uses for the moment, because, and of course we know they've also launched their own passport. So it's as if they mean business, and they gave us a tour of the new media complex, and very impressive, I have to say. I thought, gosh, they put this one together very, very quickly, and it looks impressive. And as they said, it's to get their message out there.
Yes, and you're cautious there, and very important that you are. It looks impressive.
Quite.
So they've opened another front.
Indeed.
Yeah, the media war front, as it were. They want to win that. For us, what we're worried about is effectiveness. They've been brilliant with their social media, their presence, and the PR. So they've been able to seduce, as a good number of young people. When you talk to them, they sort of valorize them, as it were, praising them, saying all sorts of things. But again, when you read reports, you know, from reputable organizations, really, then you realize that the reality is quite different.
Yeah.
So, but this is it. ECOWAS must engage with them. Yeah. Because of the implications of failure, the consequences of failure will be on everybody, wouldn't it, really? So, and quite interesting that these three, they have not left the West African Economic and Monetary Union.
That's right.
So there are areas in which we can collaborate, especially security. We all stand to lose.
Well, this is it. I was going to say rapprochement, but they probably wouldn't want me to use a French word. So, you know, but yeah, I think you're right there. And one of the interesting things that, you know, I wasn't quite joking. I meant it when I said I obsess over them, because I watch all of these channels every day just to get the information. And what's been interesting in the kind of combined nature is that every evening, all of them run programs about misinformation and disinformation and about how to spot it, including kind of dismissing some of the ones that kind of people have put out, praising them, saying, look, this has got nothing to do with us, it's not true. So they don't want to kind of subscribe to all these kind of made up stuff about them. They want the truth to be out there. So, and they're spending a lot of time, one of the programs is half an hour every night just about that. You think, gosh, you have to talk about this every day? You know, so it's quite interesting. And
you have to make it believable.
Yeah, indeed.
So so apparently being honest, that's a strategic move.
Of course.
So to credibility, to improve your credibility. This is what we call, wasn't it, in the old days, enlightened self-interest.
Of course.
Have to come together and do, you know, what we need to do. The security situation, this is not about ideology. No. Ideology cannot solve this.
No, quite.
You know, hardware, as in on the ground, tactics, strategy, these are the things that would solve the situation we are in, and it could get worse.
It could get worse. Whew, what a dreadful thought. Thank you for that. And now, story number 4, His Excellency President Barrow, WACA, you'll be hearing a lot about this West African Coastal Areas Resilience Project. They actually just launched a $5 million project here in the Gambia, and it will empower thousands of beneficiaries. And again, as I said, His Excellency was there for the launch. Have a look and have a listen.
The WACA program was created in response to countries' requests for solutions and finance to help protect and restore the ecological, social, and economic assets of West Africa's coastal areas by addressing erosion and flooding. In the Gambia, the project focuses on restoring and reprofiling the 11.2-kilometer Koto stream to reduce flood risk and population, strengthen public policies and institutions, and create sustainable economic opportunities for vulnerable communities along the stream.
The World Bank remains committed to working with the government, local communities, and partners to ensure all these investments translate into safer, greener, and more inclusive livelihoods. Together, we can transform vulnerability into opportunity and build a future where resilience and prosperity go hand in hand.
Mr. Mboj, for those who don't know about the Koto stream, tell our viewers what it is, because we keep hearing about the Koto stream and the fact that, you know, you need to help communities around that. What exactly is it?
Well, it's the 11.2 kilometer of water, isn't it?
That's right.
From Koto.
That's right.
Runs all the way.
Yes.
Where does it go to? Does it go to Serekunda?
I think it's Serekunda.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
So, and it is such a significant strip of land.
It is, because communities have grown up around it.
Around it, exactly.
And some of them too close to it, as we've known when it's flooded, and it's kind of, and now they've been impacted, and this is one of many schemes and projects that actually, and $5 million quite significant.
I see. So the flood special aspect, this is where WACA comes in, helping families affected by floods and that sort of thing. And how do we mitigate? How do we become more resilient? Hence, they're also working with the coastal areas.
That's right.
And that sort of thing. So this is the key, isn't it? You need programs like this, but again, afterwards you wonder how much of an impact, what's the scale of our problem regarding this, and what impact is this one we're having? One doesn't want to be lulled into a false sense of security because WACA and all of these projects are going on, but again, how much is this sort of contributing? What is the scale of our problem? Is it a drop in the ocean, or is it together? One imagines that there are other projects, so cumulatively they can have an impact on really what the problem is.
Well, indeed.
So
one of the things that intrigued me about it when they mentioned erosion, I've driven along the coast, as have you, and you've seen some of the communities where there's been sand mining for building work. And that has severely affected. And so, that part of the erosion is not kind of natural, it's man-made, and that also, I guess, I was trying to read through the project to see where it is also tackling that, which is a significant problem.
Absolutely. So this is really the key. Whereas you'll have one policy that's trying to rectify the problem, then you may have other practices that are undermining what this one is doing.
No pun intended. Undermining.
This is really where the problem comes in,
Indeed.
especially with our governance and the way things are done here. So this is the problem. So if we're serious about this, then you must bring complementary sort of other projects that together would have a massive impact, and practices that are undermining it, as it were, then you have to change those. So when you're serious, you show it, and you realize that some of these things, you solve them, it takes, they're multidimensional. You need different sectors to come together. How do you coordinate these things to get the right
I think the word coordination you used earlier is the crucial one here.
That's it. And we've been struggling with things like this. So that is really where the problem is, our Achilles heel, with institutional effectiveness.
Oh, that phrase again.
That's really
that is the truth. Very much the countries and you could say, by extension, West Africa's Achilles heel, because we find it in many other. Well, thank you for that. Story number 5 up next, and the president of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, Badea, is here in the Gambia, and he's held a couple of meetings with ministers and also senior officials. And this will tell you some of why he is here. Have a look, have a listen.
The visit, which runs from December 26th to 27th, is aimed at further strengthening cooperation between the Gambia and Badea. High-level meetings with the President of the Republic, cabinet ministers and senior government officials are scheduled alongside site visits to key education and infrastructure projects.
Today come to the Gambia to find any other opportunities for a new project, and the project is the priority of the government. We are here to support the government, to support the Gambia, and also to see in my eyes the portfolio, how it's done, and also today I will visit some projects, and tomorrow the opening ceremony of the Gambia University. And I want to congratulate His Excellency the Minister of Education for the job he's done.
He's congratulating the higher education. When he said Minister of Education, he meant higher education minister. Faraba Banta, phase 2, he's going to be there with His Excellency the President launching that one. The bank itself is an interesting one. It says Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, because it's Arab countries, and then all of their development is sub-Saharan, including, of course, here in the Gambia. And interesting thing he said there, and I knew this also happened around the time of the OIC, they sent people here to come and look at the projects for themselves, not just to receive videos and dossiers and brochures or whatever. He's here to inspect, and he's said, I guess he would say that he's pleased with what he's seen.
Oh yes, diplomacy. You cannot take away diplomacy from this sort of talk, as it were. So yes, and they've done other things as well. Value chain, rice value chain.
That's right. Capacity building.
Capacity building. They've done all sorts of things, and this one is to inaugurate, wasn't it?
That's right. That's right. Lot 2, phase 2, or whatever.
Stuff like that. Yes. New physical, expanding the physical infrastructure.
This is it. And what was interesting about this, amongst many things, is that at the meeting, the Gambian side asked for the loan to be slightly restructured to include, furniture and equipment. I think it was. Yes.
That was an interesting one.
Which is good.
Share supply of furniture and equipment. That's it. Under phase 2. So one will wait for what they will agree.
Well, this is it. And just 3 days before this, he chaired a meeting, the president, Musaibi, and at that meeting, even more money. So, I've left the paper upstairs, but they've now committed quite a few billions towards the kind of economic development that they would like to see or help along the road in Africa. And so 3 days after that meeting, he then lands in the Gambia, which was quite interesting because when I checked, it's the first country he's visited since that meeting of 3 days ago. So obviously a certain amount of kudos to the Gambia, and also, as he said, they're looking for other projects that they can help with.
Absolutely. But again, when I read the loan agreement, it's like, because we've read somewhere else, that's it. They're talking about be careful of becoming sort of loan distressed. As it were, they use these terms, as it were. And there's been a lot of warning about our loan. Right. So you wonder, how are we prioritizing?
And what are the terms of
what are the terms of the loan? So you worry about the details, as a way, the fine print.
Yeah, sure.
But all countries are in debt, but it depends on how you use it and whether you're generating money to be able to fund, as it were, the debt, as well as to service the debt, as well as spend in social services and that sort of thing. Often you find that financing the debt sort of overcrowds. It takes over. It takes over from social welfare spending.
That's right. Yes, in many countries, and including ours, I suspect. But thank you for that. And that takes us nicely to the break. And after the break, after this commercial break, we will have 5 more stories. So do not go away. Join us after the break.
The godfather of Afro-Manding music, Jaliba Kuyate, ay album Kutakutole Fintindi Holy Saturday, 10th of January 2026, Pinchami Hall, Paradise Suites Hotel, 9 p.m. VIP tickets $1,000, ordinary ticket $500. Father of the night, Suleiman Diouf Brusubi. Mother of the night, Musukeba Sane Trawale, Germany. Chief guest of honor, Momudu Turo Dabo. King of the night, Honorable Muhammad Kante Busumbala. Queen of the night, Nene Yasin Kebe. Auntie of the night, Binta Batabali Sabali Kombol Lamen. Owners of the night, Honorable Sidi SK Njai, Mayor Talib Ahmed Bensouda, Make Kamara Salaji. Brothers of the night, Lamin Cham NPP, Kemo Sise GFF. Sisters of the night, Abiba Belgium, Fatou Kamara Petrogas, Maimuna Balde NPP. Princess of the night, Dr. Seina Bumbai Jaffa. Lady of the night, Nene Freda Gomez.
Hello and welcome back. You are still watching QTV if you were with us at the start, and you are still watching the Week in Review. I'm Ade Darami, and the gentleman resplendent across the table from me is Mamoudou Mbodj, and there we have I've just realized they're almost in Ashobi, Mbodj and Lamindi Sonko doing the signing. Well, thank you for joining us for this next 5 stories. Now the next one, again, people talk about, oh, you're obsessed with keeping the country clean. Guilty, I really am. And this next one is about the Q Group Foundation teaming up with the government, Setal Sunyureo, keep the Gambia clean. Have a look, have a listen.
Urban sanitation is a firm pillar of the Gambia's national agenda as rapid population growth, expanding commercial activity and indiscriminate waste disposal continues to place increasing pressure on public spaces and public health. At the bustling Brusubi roundabout, popularly called Turntable, one of the busiest gateways into the Greater Banjul area, a new sanitation campaign funded by the Q Group Foundation through the QCell Sunibus is urging Gambians to rethink their relationship with waste.
We felt that out of mind, it out of sight, but not out of the environment. And then we normally throw a lot of things as we move along, from our cars, from wherever we sit. That is something that we need to be changed. And the only way we can change this is enforcement of the laws, as also educating and creating awareness.
Q Group, you are an angel sent to us by God. We will support you with all it takes. And we will give you all it takes in terms of our means, the political support to get this done.
How to put this delicately, the country, our country, really is not clean. And so this is something that I embrace, and I just hope other people embrace it. And before I bring in Mr. Mboj here, I'll tell you why. When I came to QTV, I happened to be walking along Kairaba Avenue, and the council had put bins for people. And there was a day when I'd finished squeezing my orange, and I lifted one of the bins to put the now, sort of finished orange husk in there, and there was nothing else in the bin. I dropped it in there, and then I just realized that at the foot of the bin, people had discarded fruit and all sorts of things. So the bin was there. It's about leading the horse to water, really. And in fact, I was so concerned that I actually took a picture and I sent it to the mayor's office at the time. And I guess that is the dilemma. It's a brilliant initiative. Let's embrace it, and we hope people will.
That's it. How do you penetrate the habits,
Yeah.
as it were? That's a difficult one. But this is it. Possibly with initiatives like this, look at us, we're talking about it, as it were. Maybe it's important for people to sort of talk about it. For many of us, it's just automatic, it's reflexive. You just throw it. But maybe when people start talking about it, you'll start thinking about it. It's amazing. I'm not sure at what point we lost the habit of throwing things in bins. Because when I grew up in Banjul, we were made to know that you're supposed to throw your litter in the bin. We learned that. So, yeah, this is where we are now. But once you have the infrastructure, just as you said, they ignore it at first, but hopefully sooner or later you have to drum it into them everywhere. In schools, we hope that the teachers are helping, schools are helping, but I'm doubtul, because Kairaba Avenue, after school sometimes, I go for a walkabout, and you see these children, they just use anything, they're whatever,
that's it.
those,
they kind of squeeze plastic,
and they just throw it on the floor. So I'm not sure what they're doing in the schools. How do you drum in that message that
and for me,
shouldn't be doing
that's
that?
a crucial thing, because I think you have to bring them on board.
You have to bring them on board.
And start them young, and so it becomes a habit not to do that. And so as they grow, they just do not do it. But getting to that, using song and dance and rap and whatever is all part of the message, getting the message across. And of course, I drove by the roundabout, turntable as it's called, and it was clean, because I gather the Q Group have paid people to clean it on a regular basis as a kind of example to people to say, look, we can exist in a clean environment, and this is what it looks like.
So that is it. That's really the challenge we face. More fundamentally, though, I think this is a symptom of that. How we regard public space. We don't feel any ownership. So I like this idea that they want people to feel some kind of ownership. Even when you do something wrong and somebody else talks to you about it, you shouldn't do this. And then my immediate response would be, is it yours?
Is it yours? Yeah, quite.
It's extraordinary. So nobody owns public space, as it were. So I can do whatever. Nobody has a right to tell me anything. So that sense of owning you know, the public space. That is lacking so much in the way we think about these things. Maybe that has something to do with this. So just throw it anywhere and you don't care.
So be warned, let battle commence. We will drum it into your heads till we stop doing it. Thank you for that, Mr. Humboj. Number 7 story, very, very different in tone, and a tragedy that this is not a repeat story, it's just the latest. What is it? It's about another set of people intending to go on the so-called regular, or as it's called here, the back way journey to Europe mainly, and not making it. Have a look, have a listen.
The vessel bound for the Canary Islands in Spain had drifted for several days before the alert was raised at around 200 local time. Survivors, including 18 women and a 6-month-old infant, were taken to safety by gendarmes and rescue teams. Thousands of irregular migrants dying at sea in recent years. Winter months often see an increase in these risky departures as seasonal winds and economic hardships across parts of Africa drive more people to seek a better life abroad.
To seek a better life tends to be what we hear, Mr. Humboj, but every week. And now there's been a kind of grim montage of names and faces that's been doing the rounds in this last week of December, saying these are many hundred people, 300 or whatever, Gambians mainly, who have perished on this journey. And as we speak, there's a ship, or a boat, I beg your pardon, that's apparently been lost for 10 or 11 days, and people assume that it's a goner. But we keep hearing this. As I said, it's not a repeat story, it's just the latest.
Yes, and among the survivors were 18 women and 1 6-month-old infant.
Can you imagine?
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
There has to be a crime in there somewhere. You really cannot take such a risk on this very young baby. You may do it for yourself, but it's extraordinarily unfair, really, to subject these kids, as it were, to that sort of ordeal. Really, it is unfair, but it's an extraordinary situation we are in.
It really is.
What would it take,
well, indeed,
as it were,
to kind of change it around? Because there's not a single reason for it. When you look at the people who have gone, you know, people who had jobs, people who didn't have jobs, young, old, men, women, mainly men, but quite a lot of women. If you look at the montage, collage of photographs that's been circulating, all sorts. And then there's one which is a family, a husband, wife, and their child who's under 9 months.
That's it.
Yeah, so quite.
And then we go back to sort of advocates, as it were, rights advocates and all the rest of it. We'll talk about the economy, there's no hope, and all the rest of it. I said, okay, granted, but that sort of thing wouldn't change even in the intermediate period. So you mean we're going to have this sort of, in a sense, almost justifying it, as it were, for how long are we going to have that? Because it's not going to change. And you need your people, as it were, to change things.
That's right.
So it's an extraordinary bind we are in now. So, yes, short of having 24-hour patrols of the high seas, as it were, you just don't see how it's going to change. That stringent enforcement, making it extremely difficult. Maybe that will have some impact on it, making it extremely difficult. Patrols, but do we have the resources to do that?
Currently, no.
Currently, no. So this is a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's a depressing one.
It's a depressing one.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Mr. Humboj. Story number 8, again, very different to story number 7 that you just heard. Russia-Africa Summit. It ended recently in Cairo, and a lot of African presence there from government sources, ministers, presidents. And the Gambia was there. The president wasn't there, but high-level Gambians were there, ministers and senior civil servants. Have a look, have a listen.
Ministers and diplomats from more than 50 African countries gathered for a 2-day conference in the Egyptian capital for what is becoming an annual meeting with the Russian Federation. While US and European sanctions pile up on Moscow because of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Russia got promises from Africa to expand trade and economic ties.
Seychelles aligns itself fully with the joint statement to be adopted by the ministers, reaffirming our unwavering commitment to deepening the Russia-Africa partnership, strengthen our resilience, and lay the foundations for sustainable development across our diverse national contexts.
The conference saw commitments from Russia to support Africa's 2063 agenda for inclusive and sustainable development. Moscow vowed to increase training opportunities and scholarships for Africans and help with capacity building in sectors of advanced sciences and technologies. With a focus on economic partnership with Russia, Africa also called for cooperation in resolving conflicts as a necessity for its development.
Agenda 2063, of course, Russia pledged to help with that. Of course, we've got lots of minerals that they want, and if you watched and listened to that report and other reports from the summit, you'll be saying sanctions? What sanctions? The West is obsessed with those sanctions, and you read about them every day because, of course, mainly the kind of Russia-Ukraine conflict. But if you'd attended this conference, you would never even have known that that was going on. It hardly got a mention there. It got mentioned in passing by some of the speakers, saying that this is why the West is having a problem with Russia. But we don't care. We'll go on doing business with you guys.
Yes, that's how we interpret our non-alignment.
Non-alignment,
we can just deal with
everybody.
But at the report there, at the end, when the reporter there talked about resolving conflict.
That made you laugh.
I laughed. I said, people have just invaded Ukraine. I'm not sure
Coming
about
up 3
that.
years this February since the full-scale invasion.
But this is the key now, isn't it? The multipolarity. America doesn't want to play ball anymore, especially under Trump now. And then there are rivals now, China, Russia. They're all having these summits and the like.
That's right.
But again, when you look at Russia, with Wagner try to help, to no avail. Look at it, we were just talking about the situation in the Sahel. There's been no change there. When it comes to trade, really not much.
True.
Foreign direct investment, I was just looking at the figures there, what, less than 1%?
Yeah, quite. And most of what they seem to offer are scholarships for people to go and study there.
That's it, education scholarships, that's it. They're doing a lot there. And there's been some health cooperation as well. They've done some of these things. But when you look at trade, concentrated in certain areas, really, and what commodities? Oil. That sort of arms, commodities as it were, not helping us diversify in industrial or technological way. So the question is, and we must ask this with all of them, is this geopolitical positioning or a truly development-oriented kind of relationship? We must ask it with China, with all of them. We've got this summiteering, as they call it. Summiteering. So we should be very careful. You know, they're playing their own geopolitical game. We shouldn't allow ourselves again to become victims of it, to be the pawns, as it were, in that game.
As we were previously.
As we were previously, you know, with the Cold War, we saw how we were. And I'm afraid that we are slotting, as it were, into a similar position in the new age. And they would say that China, they're different, they're different, that. Well, there are stylistic differences, but in the end, it's about their interest. We all know that, and they're powerful.
So maybe for a change, we should put our interests first, as they've done for theirs. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. Story number 9. There's been yet another fire at another of our big markets. This time, if you've been to Banjul, you'll know the Albert Market. Yes, part of it has been engulfed and destroyed. Have a look, have a listen.
This is what remains of Banjul's historic Albert Market following Saturday night's devastating fire. As with previous fires at the Brikama, Serekunda and Basse markets, traders here lost almost everything. A growing trend, many blame on poor market infrastructure and in some cases, electrical faults.
We should all take responsibility in the market. and follow proper procedures. A market should not be designed in a way that allows everyone to do whatever they like. This is how most of our markets are structured. All stakeholders from the governor to this Banjul City Council have roles to play, but the market must be governed by clear guidelines.
The person talking there about clear guidelines we were interpreting the words of President Barrow, by the way. And he was the one who was saying these things about must be governed by clear guidelines. In the lead up to that, you heard in the clip there, almost everything destroyed. I'm not a betting man, but I'd be willing to bet that not many of them had insurance, as we found out with other markets, Serekunda, Basse, and other markets that were destroyed and then rebuilt. Virtually nobody. In the case of Basse, out of 120 stall holders, one had insurance, and that was a Nigerian trader. But the president was there, and again, but we keep having these market fires. And when you look at some of them and you see the wiring and so on, it's perhaps no surprise, Mr. Mboj.
Same old, isn't it? How many market fires have we covered?
Yeah.
Perhaps one would have thought that after a few or so,
there'd been like a review.
Yes, are we going to have a kind of task force?
Yeah.
How do we tackle this? How do we really change things? What's been going wrong? As it were? You would expect that after every fire, there would be a report. Yeah. Not least from the Gambia Fire Services, isn't it? There'll be a report and recommendations and all the rest of it. Why aren't we doing that? Yeah. So periodically we'll be having this all the time. I'm appealing to, for philanthropists to give here and there. The president will pledge, or the government would pledge this and pledge that. Yeah. But for how long? Yeah, why not go to the root of the problem? What are we doing? What can we do? How can government engage councils? What can be done, as it were, to make sure that we seriously, as it were,
and not wait for the next fire.
Not wait for the next fire.
Almost inevitable based on the fact that there's not a kind of national structure, as you said, a task force that should be going around to think, okay, we've had all these big fires at all these big markets. We have several other big markets. Let's go and look at them, see if the kind of conditions are replicated that could lead to this. And if they are, let's do something about it.
What do the reports say?
Go on.
Do we actually do these reports? What do the reports say?
You're tempting me now to request from the fire brigade. I'm going to write it down.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
then that's where you get your data, isn't it?
Yeah,
then people responsible for that then can use that to rectify the situation, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
But you don't know. Well, the fact that it is just repeating itself tells you that
suspect that it's not really the reports being gathering dust if they exist.
It's as if we really do not know what to do, how to change things.
Yeah, very, very depressing. So, we hope they're listening, we hope they're watching, and we hope things will change.
They keep appealing to people, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Without an enforcement regime that actually works, people just do what is significant, what is expedient. Absolutely. And we are not all good at judging risks.
And if we go back to the one about the clean-up campaign, you mentioned something about the kind of lack of respect for the public space.
Absolutely.
This is very much a public space.
Yes.
And yet people behave in a way as if it's simply their own space.
Just my own space.
And they don't know about or care about the consequences for everyone else who is using that very much a public space.
Yes. So that sense of sort of national ownership, that sense of being part of it, it's a curious thing that you see in people. I really do not know how to explain it, as it were, but it's a curious one. It makes us sort of not perform as good citizens. We can't do so. Citizen of what?
Yeah, quite. If only we'd had an Amilcar Cabral.
Well,
I won't mention a particular country, but if only.
But it's a good thing that you've mentioned them, because with people like that, the idea was with an independent state, you're going to have new people. Yeah. It's only now that one is beginning to realize that, that psychological space, I don't know, decolonizing the mind, perhaps. That process has been very, very slow.
Sure.
Look at us, how we behave collectively. It's almost like you have a predatory collective. One part in power will be such a predator, and the others is just for yourself. So the public space is very weird. I just do not know. It's very strange. public office, nobody owns it.
Yeah, quite, exactly.
as it were. So you can do whatever.
What you want.
That's what, yeah.
Depressing. And that depressing thought takes us to something slightly more joyful. And that's the Africa Cup of Nations, kicked off in Morocco. And it's been some exciting stuff so far. Really, really good games to watch. And I've really enjoyed watching it. Have a look, have a listen. We start with the games that completed match day 1. In Group E, Algeria began their campaign in style, defeating Sudan 3-0. The Desert Foxes looked sharp and confident, securing all 3 points to top the group. Burkina Faso beat Equatorial Guinea and are second on goal difference behind Algeria. Over in Group F, defending champions Ivory Coast claimed a narrow 1-0 start to the defence of their title against Mozambique, while Cameroon also claimed a narrow but vital 1-0 victory over Gabon. Elsewhere, the familiar favourites lead their respective groups. In Group A, Morocco are ahead of Mali, Zambia and the Comoros. In Group B, Egypt leads South Africa with both on 3 points, ahead of Angola and Zimbabwe with both having no points. In Group C, Tunisia are ahead of Nigeria with both teams on 3 points, while Tanzania and Uganda have 0 points. In Group D, Senegal, one of the favourites, are top, followed by DR Congo, with both of them on 3 points, while Benin and Botswana are yet to register a point. Senegal, DR Congo playing on Saturday. Should be quite an exciting one. Yeah, as I said there, I've been observing the games, and what has impressed me most has been how all the countries seem to have raised their standards. Even the big guns, Mali, they're drawing 1-1 with Morocco. Not many people, we know Mali are a good team, but Morocco are not just the hosts, they're also Africa's highest ranked team on the FIFA rankings, and very much were, hosts and favourites. So yeah, that was it was a great game, by the way, although 2 penalties. For the draw, 1-1 draw, but that's been the kind of standard,
Absolutely, goals galore.
And some great ones too.
Absolutely, at this stage of the competition, the last time, they've scored more goals this time. I think it was about nearly 30 goals or so in the first round. That's it, and some of us have been watching this competition sort of since the 80s.
Yeah, that's right.
You've seen how standards have really improved extraordinarily.
It really is.
I've watched a few. It was like watching really European teams.
Yeah, yes, indeed, in terms of the organization, which was the thing that we used to fall down on. It's almost as if in the early 80s you'd send out 11 players, a goalkeeper and 10 players, and say, just go out there and play, guys. You're all skillful and you'll work out something. But now there are tactics. There's proper formations, people sticking to their formations, flying wing backs, the whole lot. It's all there. Anything you want to see is there.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it also helps with the fact that a good number of our players are now plying their trade in top European sides. Sure. That has something to do with...
Which is a good and bad thing, by the way. And the reason I say this is because former Gambian coach Tom Samfie went on a rant at a press conference about how he feels that European clubs and associations still disrespect AFCON in terms of, they're the ones who always dictate when it should be moved and changed and so on. But he was also talking about one of his players who plays for Sassuolo in Italian Serie A, who he said once the guy was selected for this AFCON, the club put pressure on him saying, don't go and play. But when the chap insisted and went public, they then said to him, okay, we're not going to pick you. So for the last few weeks, they haven't picked him. But he's gone with the squad. And he said he's not match fit because of that. So he was very, very upset about it.
When I heard that, then I asked the question, is there any area where we are given respect? Oh, please, this is just a reflection of that. How do you let's see how we can deal with it, but it's just the same thing with everything else. Sure. But that's it. Things are improving. Performances have been brilliant. And in Morocco, as I understand, it's like a jamboree.
Yeah, very much.
Football jamboree.
Sure.
And that's it. Who's going to take it in the end? Ooh, I do not know. I watched Egypt, South Africa, fantastic. They were a football match. So we didn't know. But overall, the quality has been good. And one hopes that it will improve.
Let's hope it keeps on improving.
That's how you maybe how you get your respect
Exactly. Thank you for that, Mr.
On the
Boyd.
pitch.
Thank you. And so just to thank you for your interjections this far, and also, of course, throughout the year, and of course to you, the viewer, for sort of staying with us throughout the year, and to Lamindi Sonko for his interpretations and his translations, sign language. And yes, I said this is the last one of 2025 until we come your way in the new year. Goodbye.